So, would you start by telling me your name and where you're from and your occupation?
Yes, Nikki, my name is Serena Anderlini-D'Onofrio. I am originally from Rome, but I have three matrias, three homelands. One is Italy, one is California, and one is Puerto Rico. And my occupation, I have been a scholar, an activist scholar and a professor, university professor for the past 20 years, and I teach humanities.
Nice. And will you tell me about how polyamory relates to your life?
Oh, it relates to my life in a very big way. I have been practicing multi-partnering since 1991 when I lived in San Diego in the 90s. We had an amazing bisexual forum group, and we were all in love with each other. And then I started to meet the groups at the East Coast about 7 or 8 years ago, since my professorship at University of Puerto Rico was confirmed. And I have been really part of these communities as a participant observer and an activist scholar. In other words, I am interested in doing research and scholarship about what I love and what I think is good in the world. And so I have written numerous books, collections, and edited collections and authored books about my polyamorous life and about why it is good to the world that we bring these new models for relationships that really help people optimize the use of resources of love. That's my main point, that polyamory is an amazing tool to really use the resources of love that exist in the most optimized way, because people can participate to the degree that they can. For example, in their lives there is enough room for a secondary relationship, to be a tertiary relationship. So they can do that. Maybe they don't have the energy to commit to a primary relationship at that time. And so it helps really distribute these resources that exist in the most optimized way once one learns to practice. And this is really what, in conferences like this, you learn the nuts and bolts of these practices that really enable you to expand your heart chakra, to include more people and to love more inclusively. And that's what I've learned as, participating as a participant observer, but I have really participated and learned a lot. And my amorous life is amazingly beautiful, and I'm always quite happy about it. Of course, there are ups and downs, as in everything. That's what I can say. And I also want to say that the Loving More organization has been a pioneer in really presenting these tools to these new models for relationships, and I am very grateful to this organization for all the conferences and retreats that it puts forth. And one thing that I really want to say is that I am amazingly happy that a master's degree thesis can be done through the medium of video on this topic. I think this speaks volumes of how the knowledge, the production of knowledge is progressing. Do you have any other questions of me?
I'd love to hear about your current project, you said.
Yes, exactly. This is something that has been a reward for me, and that also I feel is a reward for what we believe in. The University of Connecticut at Storrs has awarded me a residential fellowship for this year. And guess what I'm studying? I am studying amorous inclusiveness, namely the way to love multiple people at the same time, or at least to feel that expansive form of love in one's heart. And so amorous inclusiveness, you could say, is a bit of a scientific word for polyamory, because it's not identity oriented, but rather it includes any form, any ways in which this inclusiveness can manifest. And sexual fluidity, which is a way to indicate that orientations are not etched in stone, but that there is a whole gray area between homosexuality and heterosexuality, sexual fluidity, in certain classics of Italian film, where these scenes, these particular scenes where you see this fluctuation, this fluidity, and you see this inclusiveness really manifests itself, even though eventually the plot narrows down to a conclusion that is more monogamous and more monosexual. But then there is that moment of expansiveness, and you can observe that the characters that's really the most important moment in the plot, the moment where everything would be possible, where the ideologies that prevail subside for a moment and the human nature expresses itself. And it's wonderful to be studying this in the context of a humanities institute, because that's where we study what is good about us humans rather than pathologies, for example. We study who we are as a species and what's our potential to do good in the world.
Great, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
What do you see the future in the next 10, 15 years in the United States of polyamory?
Well, that's a wonderful question, Nikki. Thank you. Yes, as a scholar, I've always been involved in, not only in studying what is, but in generating a vision for what can be. Even though, of course, scholarship is about what exists and not, having the crystal ball. But I do see polyamory as one of many manifestations of a general movement and a paradigm shift. And I can say a little bit how I envision this paradigm.
1 second, sorry. Excuse me? I just want to make sure they don't mind
Yeah.
they're in the shot.
Yes. What many people think of is a paradigm shift that goes from a sense of resources as sort of sense that humans are the central species and everything else that exists on Earth is made for us, to a sense that we really are part of this creation and self-recreation, sort of recycling, continuous recycling of resources. And so we go toward a future where there will be fewer resources and more people. And so it's extremely important to learn how to share these resources well. And if you think that love really is the ecology of life, because without love there will be no life, then it's so much even more important to learn to share this resource, the resource of love. So I see polyamory as one of the many manifestations of the movements that will help us as a species to navigate this paradigm shift. I am now especially interested in ecosexuality, which is one of these parallel movements, and also a movement that can include certain aspects of polyamory. When we speak of ecosexuality, we speak of the style of love that's beyond genders, beyond numbers, beyond species, beyond ages, races, and orientations. So it's beyond all these divisiveness systems that block the sharing of these resources of love. The sharing that is always, of course, consensual. And in this movement, there is, polyamory articulates especially the sense that love can be beyond numbers. In other words, that it doesn't have to be restricted to one person. Why? Because really ecosexuality is about loving all of life as a partner with equal rights. And there is a certain shifting of a metaphor from the earth as mother to the earth as lover, and actually to the earth as hostess, because all the love that ever was hosted by our loving planet, Gaia. And so in a way, what polyamorists think of compersion, which is this ability to sustain the love that others manifest over each other, this ability to contemplate the love that manifests between two or more people for its beauty, as a beautiful painting, beautiful work of art. That compersion, the opposite of jealousy, as some people call it, is really our planet Gaia is the most compersive lover we will ever have, because she has hosted all the love that has ever happened. for us and for all the other species. So we must hope that she will continue to do so, and we must love her in return.
Great. That's all I had, and that was brilliant. Like,
Okay.
everything you said is so